It is January 17th, 2023. This is the Wrestling Inc. podcast. Sad news tonight as we start the show, as it has been confirmed that Jay Briscoe is dead at the age of 38. Our thoughts are with his family. I think a lot of wrestling fans are really heartbroken tonight. A lot of wrestlers as well. NXT acknowledged this on the broadcast this evening, which I thought was a very nice gesture on WWE's part. But we are here tonight to talk about this news, touch a little bit on NXT, but first and foremost, on everybody's minds, the passing of Jay Briscoe. Alfred, what do we know as far as the details of this?
Well, Jay Briscoe, first and foremost, RIP. It's just such shocking news. I'm really still kind of collecting myself over it all. It's very shocking to just read that. Obviously, you never expect something like that to happen. So you can only imagine what his family is going through. So RIP, Jay Briscoe, a legendary member of the Briscoe brothers tag team, 13-time ROH tag team champions. And right now, according to the Delaware State Police, they reported that the crash, he passed away from a car crash, and it occurred in the area of Laurel Road and Little Hill Road around 5:30 p.m. Eastern in the Delaware area. Not a lot of details are known. The Shore News Beacon did report that 4 patients were trapped, and there were 2 fatalities in this car accident. There are 2 critical patients, and 1 was referenced as being pediatric, so child. But those are the details that we know. Don't want to speculate on anything at this time. Just horrible news. Regardless of what you spin it, Jay Briscoe passing away. He's just a legendary performer. Really, even after 20 years, seemed like he was hitting his stride as part of the Briscoe brothers with more mainstream exposure as part of AEW and Ring of Honor, and just had some legendary matches last year, this year, and was really on top of the tag team world at the time of his passing, even though he was just 38 years old.
Yeah, widely regarded as one of the best tag teams today. Now, Issa, you've interviewed Jay before, correct?
I did. I was just sharing with you guys off air. I got a chance to meet them, interview him during SummerSlam weekend, and I'm still in shock. He was a very. They were both extremely nice to me. We shared a couple of laughs over these guys that were cosplaying, and they were playing wrestling, and they bumped into their table and almost like knocked it onto them. And Jay's eyes were just like, I don't know if he was getting ready to throw hands or what he was doing, but it was funny because later when I saw him, he was like, "Did you see how people were acting a StarCast?" And I was like, I did. He was just so kind to me every single time I got the opportunity to speak to him. So it's this one hits hard. Current Ring of Honor tag team champion.
Right.
Yeah.
Last
They're
match
on the
I
13th.
saw.
Yeah.
Last match I saw was that incredible collar dog collar match against the FTR, and it just like I love that match. I thought it was the best thing I saw in a long time tag team wrestling wise, and now it just means so much more.
Absolutely. Well, Wrestling Inc. will have more details as they're available about this tragic passing. Just so crazy to think about. I mean, 38 is still relatively so young. I think people would argue that the Briscoes were in the prime of their career, and this is just really tough to believe.
In the prime of their career and getting ready to really establish themselves in front of more casual wrestling audience, because a lot of hardcore people who follow all kinds of different products will acknowledge that they are some of the best tag teams in the world. But even within the wrestling community, there are people who, even if you only watch WWE and AEW, maybe you're not as familiar with the Briscoes, but they were turning a lot of people's heads over this past year and were coming up to be right there with the Usos, FTR as the best in the world year after year. And, they were already Hall of Famers before this happened, and they're going to be Hall of Famers now. But it's horrible that not only has he been taken away, first and foremost from the planet, but from the wrestling world in terms of all their great contributions to the wrestling world, that they're going to be no more as the Briscoe brothers.
And I think, they're definitely among many people's favorite tag teams and favorite wrestlers working today. The FTR matches, absolutely huge. I feel like they just made quite a name for themselves. And, with the acquisition of Ring of Honor by AEW and Tony Khan.
And Tony Khan was very open in the press, one of the press calls, that he hired them, that they were locked in a long-term deal with Ring of Honor. They were in with him.
Yeah. I'll tell you, these past 3 years have been crazy, and I don't think accepting the loss of life has gotten any easier, given everything that's gone on. And with this situation, I mean, it's just shock, surprise, and I think it just caught a lot of people off guard. And yeah, that was a very, very nice gesture by WWE to acknowledge it during tonight's NXT broadcast.
Yeah, I always wanted, I mean, I've said multiple times on the podcast, one of my dreams was to see the Briscoes in WWE. I just always felt they were so different from everything that WWE had that they would stand out. And regardless of if they were used as a comedy act, I always knew that they were talented enough to work, and they could have been enormous stars had they gone to WWE, and just always reminded me of the Bushwhackers, which were one of my favorite tag teams growing up as a kid. But I mean, they could obviously, in terms of the Briscoes, just really go athletically and whatnot, but just that hardened look, they just looked like wrestlers, looked like they wanted to fight somebody, or they just got in a fight, and just such a marketable duo, not only from the outside looking at them and what they look like, but once you saw them wrestle, they wrestled different than a lot of other people wrestled as these two brawlers. So,
one of the first things that I was able to tweet out was how many times I fantasy booked the Usos versus the Briscoes in my head. It's a match that I wanted to see. I remember Nick showing me when we used to do the Wrestling Inc. Daily, showing me a promo that I went back and bookmarked, and I still go back and watch, because they were just so funny. And I literally will fantasy book the promos. I'm not even talking about the in-ring. The in-ring would have been absolutely insane. But can you imagine the promos between the Usos and the Briscoes, if we ever gotten that? Would have been insane.
It's funny too, and this is to their credit when I say this, and I think wrestling fans will understand this. We poke a lot of fun at some very tough guys in the world of professional wrestling, whether it's something about their look, something about their promo. It could be something trivial, because something about them, even though they're supposed to be this big tough guy, like this is still theatrics. The Briscoes, I always thought had an intensity that seemed so real, like it. And again, this is to their credit, that it almost like kind of put me off a little bit. Where with some wrestlers that are heels, you go, oh well, this is just fun and games, and with the Briscoes, it was like, I get the impression these dudes live it. I mean, I certainly wouldn't want to piss them off.
100%.
But you hear these stories about everyone talking about how nice they were, how sweet they
are. They were beloved by wrestlers, by the community. They were beloved backstage. But that, what you just described, Glenn, that comes at a premium in the wrestling business. That legit, you don't need to have it, but that legitimate tough guy aura, where they exude that realness in front of the camera, you cannot teach that. That comes at a premium, and the Briscoes had it in spades.
Yeah.
I mean, these are promos that they're doing from their phones, in their backyard, in their farm, and they were more efficient than a lot of things that I see with all the production value. I every time they would tweet, I would pop up. It was like, sit down and grab your popcorn, because this is gonna be the greatest 2.5-minute videos that you're gonna see on social media today. And that is the thing, it's that it factor. We always talk about it. The people that have it, they have that persona. Win or lose, you don't want to mess with them. They always gave you that, whether it was on the ring, whether it was through a promo, even through a tweet. There was just something about, and they were, whether they were coming off as tough guys, but they were always relatable. It's very weird, because not only were they tough, they were relatable. They had a very good connection with their fan base.
I mean, I'll say in terms of promos, we only saw a glimpse of it, but in my mind, one of the great feuds that never was in Ring of Honor, when they were supposed to be feuding with Enzo and Cass, and that build happened.
Yeah.
I for what we saw of those promos back and forth, I thought it was fantastic. I thought that it could have been great, but I mean, look, they had some incredible feuds, incredible matches
against each other. Briscoe versus Briscoe from the early 2000s. I mean, they had some crazy matches against each other that were great. They were great singles performers as well as tag team.
I mean, it's interesting. Killer of Demons 669 is saying, if they'd gone to WWE, they would have had to tone down their promos. I wish they would have gone to WWE, because I would have loved to have heard the stories about how Vince was backstage. Because I think Vince would have believed it. There was something about these guys. Like,
Vince would have loved these guys.
Yeah, I mean, even
whether they were comedy, whatever they did, Vince would have used them every single week on TV.
It's crazy. Now, I mean, it's this is just insane, especially because it seemed like the Briscoes' career and Jay Briscoe's career was on an upswing. Definitely. I mean, I think with AEW acquiring Ring of Honor, with them getting over some past controversies and moving past that. I think that the future was looking very bright. And
they were getting a lot of exposure that they didn't have before, that mainstream that you spoke about.
Yeah,
a lot of people that weren't familiar with them were starting to know them. I know and heard a couple of stories of people that started going back and watching their matches. I'm one of them. I became familiar with them on more recent, and I remember going back, ask a couple of people, give me some suggestions, watch a couple of their old matches, and I really do think that they were just, like you guys said, on their prime. They were just getting started, and I think Tony Khan is doing a good job at trying to give Ring of Honor more exposure.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of Tony Khan, he definitely has a more sympathetic approach to the wrestling business. He put on what a lot of people would consider the greatest tribute show of all time for the late John Huber, Brody Lee. And, on short notice, 24 hours, Dynamite is tomorrow. There's going to be some sort of tribute to Jay Briscoe. So I'm interested in seeing that, because that AEW is going to honor his legacy the right way. And it'll be interesting to see if maybe they make the whole 2 hours a tribute show to Jay, and interesting to see, how they adjust to the news that comes out and what happens on that end.
Super chat from John Jordan. Sorry, Issa, $20 super chat saying, rest in peace to Jay. Condolences to family, friends, and colleagues. The best part about wrestling is the community. When things are great, they're enjoyed together. When they're awful, people come together too. Much love, everyone. Thank you so much, John.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. Very well said.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is still just sinking in for a lot of people. This is real. This happened. And
it took me a while to process it. I saw Shawn Michaels sent out a tweet, Triple H sent out a tweet, so I do give WWE a lot of major props for acknowledging it on air and going on and share the condolences on social media.
Absolutely. Triple H's tweet, an incredible performer who created a deep connection with wrestling fans across the globe. My condolences to the family and friends of Jay Briscoe.
Yeah, very well said. It's really just so tough it just happened so suddenly in terms of how it just comes out. And, again, we've had these crazy news years. It feels like the past 6 months, we've been just saying how big this story is, how big that story is. But then when a story like this happens and it's just real life, it just kind of reminds you how trivial they are, and how, stories and deaths like these, how powerful and impactful they can be.
Yeah. Do you have Tony Khan's tweet, Alfred?
I don't, but I can pull it up.
Okay, great. Man. Yeah, I think a lot of people's minds were on this over NXT tonight. I know we want to talk a little bit about that, but this is definitely the top story.
So Tony Khan tweeted, sadly, Jermaine Pugh has passed away. It's Jay Briscoe's real name. Known to fans as Jay Briscoe. He was a star in ROH for over 20 years, from the first show until today. And he said, Jay and his brother Mark dominated ROH, reigning as champions to this day. We'll do whatever we can to support his family. Rest in peace, Jermaine. Tony Khan.
Yeah, I think this is going to be setting in for a lot of people, but a very sad day in the world of professional wrestling. And our thoughts are with his family. Before we dive into NXT, let's see here. Issa, what was the thing you'd sent me?
Yeah, it was what Brian Alvarez just tweeted.
Oh, got it.
I'm just trying to keep you guys posted in case anything breaks while we're on the air.
Okay, yeah. So we've got threads open, and we'll definitely bring you the latest confirmed news as we have it. Again, out of respect, we just ask people, please don't wildly speculate or spread rumors on anything unconfirmed.
Yeah, it is worth noting there has been a lot of speculation surrounding this death. I mean, that's as far as really I want to take it, but you're gonna hear a lot of crazy things or whatnot, true or otherwise. But for this show, for the purpose of this show, we can only confirm that he's passed away, and it's tragic when anybody's passes away.
What else do we have that's currently in the news before we dive into NXT?
Well, there is speculation on The Rock returning to WWE following Raw last night. Raw is 30. is being heavily advertised next week. A lot of legends, and they did announce that every generation of the NOI family will be at Raw next week to acknowledge Roman Reigns in a tribal ceremony. Of course, if you saw the promo graphics they used, it was electricity, similar to what's in the Royal Rumble. So there is a whole lot of speculation on The Rock coming back. Kind of reminds me of the Sasha Banks situation, how this is kind of being promoted without saying his name. But do we see The Rock next week to promote your boy Roman Reigns, Issa?
No, he's too scared.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Unless he's coming to acknowledge, bow down to the tribal chief head of the table, then he's more than welcome. I'll send him an invite just in case.
Can you imagine if that's the segment that The Rock just comes out, pats Roman on the back? Good job.
Not pat, bow down.
And then just turns around and leaves. It says, by the way, Black
then,
Adam now streaming on home video.
Yeah, and then says I'll never be on Roman's level. That will be a nice touch too.
Do you like if The Rock didn't want to wrestle again, like, or if his choices were to do that or to lose to Roman, I think he would rather do that. I think he'd rather acknowledge him and then later be able to be like, psych, just kidding, something.
Yeah, just to troll his cousin. I think he'd want to do the job. I don't know. Of course, as Issa likes to say, you just don't expect anything or whatnot. But this is a wrestling world. Speculation ran wild. I do believe that Sasha Banks drew the largest walk-up sales for an AEW event in history, even though she did not show up. So this era of promoting by not saying their name, it's a very common thing. We've seen it with Bray Wyatt. We saw it with CM Punk. People thought they saw it with Sasha Banks. People think they're seeing it with The Rock right now, in that I don't know how you get away with saying every generation of this family will show up. With all the rumors that are out there, WWE will face a backlash if The Rock doesn't show up. Whether or not they care is another discussion, but I fully expect people to really anticipate The Rock showing up on Raw as 30.
And instead we get the egg.
Yeah.
Oh,
we get the
please
Rock's
don't
egg.
remind me of that.
They should blow it up like the gobbledygooker. Put that giant egg there, and then Chavo Guerrero jumps out of there. I think that'd be great.
In Austin Theory, I'll take a photo in front of it. Take a selfie.
Be a lot of likes for that selfie. Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Do you think Vince McMahon shows up at Raw 30?
I was just about to ask you that. Do we get? Pro Wrestling Bit's gonna have a new slate of videos next week, and we are going to be running with a Vince McMahon countdown clock. I truly do believe he will be back at WrestleMania, maybe sooner. But enjoy the last 3 months of the Triple H era, because by WrestleMania, Vince McMahon will be back in the chair. And who knows? Maybe he decides to come back to work early on Raw. I could see it easily.
Wow. Kelvin Alexander, $2 super chat saying Issa is my favorite cool heel.
Thank you, Kelvin. I'm not being a heel, though. I'm being serious. If he shows up, he better be to acknowledge.
So you think that if The Rock shows up, he will acknowledge the tribal chief and then go about his way?
He will, or we'll make him. I mean, he's 50. He's 50 years old now, so he's fragile, So we gotta kind of.
50's young in the wrestling business.
Yeah, Mark is saying maybe The Rock shows up on the Titantron only. Maybe Kevin Owens is texting him eggplant emojis, and The Rock has to, respond.
Isn't that what he did to get John Cena to come back?
Yes.
I mean, I could see it. It'd be the elephant in the room. This segment will get hijacked if it goes long enough without The Rock. I could see fans chanting Rocky, we want Rocky. And if it comes and goes with no Rock, it'll kind of be sabotage, no?
Maybe.
But don't you think that will, I don't know, I guess, because when he showed up as a surprise at Barclays, it was such a moment. But wouldn't you advertise him at this point?
You should. And I agree with that idea, but I feel like whether or not this is true or this is a valid concept, I feel like the term advertisement has changed to where wrestling companies feel that if you give this audience enough hints, because there's so many hardcore fans now, if you give them enough hints, you don't necessarily have to say the name. The fact that AEW sold out the United Center doing that strategy does give it validity, that maybe they don't feel like they should say The Rock's name. They just have to give you these little rabbits that you're going to, believe.
Agreed. And I don't know how the tickets are moving, but advertising The Rock will sell tickets to casuals.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, you're catering to us. But The Rock will sell tickets to a lot of casual viewers.
He will, but to play devil's advocate.
Viewers, even anybody. You're in Philly, you don't have anything to do. Hey, The Rock's going to be at Wells Fargo. Why not?
to play devil's advocate, the ticket selling and the ratings argument, I don't think hold as much water for Raw is 30, because the 30th anniversary of Raw is going to sell tickets and move ratings. This is going to be one of their biggest numbers of the year for Raw is 30. And they're saying legends are going to be here and they're going to have these matches that are advertised. And I do think as a show with or without The Rock is going to do a good number. So maybe this is the type of show that WWE thinks The Rock can appear as a surprise because we're already going to do a good number.
It's the weirdest thing about professional wrestling is how do we surprise people, but at the same time not preclude doing something that will get more people to tune in, you know?
Yeah. And you know what's funny? I'm sorry,
ahead,
just
Alfred.
one last thing. The one thing that they probably should have saved as a surprise is Cody Rhodes going to the Royal Rumble,
Yeah,
but they're just telling everybody 2 weeks early.
Because everybody knew, and at some point I almost wish also, if you're going to do the surprise, then don't do all the Easter eggs and just have it happen. Even it was such a fresh reminder. For example, last week on Dynamite with Adam Cole coming back, no rumors, nothing leaked. This man is hiding in the back of an Uber, and it reminds you of how much you love those moments in wrestling when somebody's just a surprise appearance like that. But then you tease it and then you don't follow through. You're also going to get the same criticism that happened last week with the whole Page mystery partner.
Dwayne is going to be trending if WWE doesn't deliver. Number one trend, no Rock, no Rocky. This is an entitled fan base. But to their credit, like usually I would be lashing out against these entitled fans for expecting something that's not advertised. But AEW and WWE know what they're doing with these carny tricks of saying, I'm the boss, 1 month bill they knew people were going to expect Sasha. And guess what? It worked. They sold additional tickets. I was in Inglewood in the building for that show. And it was there was way more than 8,000 that originally advanced. It was like I would say it was 80 to 90% full. I was very surprised. And a lot of that was the walk-up sales because people thought it was going to be Sasha Banks. So you can do business doing that, but you don't want to go to that well too much and keep burning fan bases.
Yeah. Kite High, $5 super chat saying 38 years old, a star in Jay, gone way too soon. Rest in power, Jay. Thoughts to his family.
Yeah, R.I.P. Jay.
Absolutely. Oh man.
I still can't process that. Like somebody that we just watched wrestle tweeted 5 hours ago a new hat. Like it's crazy, and life is too short. You could be here 1 minute and not the next. Don't take it for granted. Hug your loved ones. Tell them you love them. I know
Absolutely.
That sounds like a cliche, but it really is. That's one of the things that blew my mind. It's like we just saw him wrestle. He's a current champ.
Yeah.
Like these things just you're never prepared for this kind of news.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. What else is in the news?
Vince McMahon, as always, the inevitable return to creative continues. Latest development, Vince McMahon, as part of his masterful comeback to WWE, went in and rewrote the bylaws so that he can approve a sale of WWE or a renegotiation of their TV rights without having to seek counsel from the board members. So essentially giving himself full power, carte blanche, to make a sale or a television deal without having to have a board vote or a shareholder consulting. Of course, this is causing a lot of uproar. There was a lawsuit filed, I believe in Delaware, last week that one of my articles is featured in that lawsuit against Vince McMahon. And there's also another lawsuit from the Delaware firefighters, I believe, or the Detroit firefighters has filed a lawsuit against Vince McMahon trying to slow down the process of a sale. But Vince McMahon, he's sending in suggestions. He's taking more power of the board. And it just seems like one step after another to give him full control of WWE ESA.
He needs to just sell it already. I'm tired of this. It's been a week? I'm tired of this.
Why isn't this done already?
No, like he's being sued. He's trying to control the sale, and it's just a lot. And it just like we saw the news today of Adam Hopkins being gone, and of course everybody's like, okay, that's another Vince thing. And it's just like I just want to go back to those couple of months that we did have where everything just felt good and we were just talking about the storylines and how much better it was getting.
Yeah. Vince, put it on eBay already and just let it go to the highest bidder. You set the deadline, maybe set a minimum bid. and whoever gets it gets it.
$250 million OBO.
I mean, the stock got an upgrade pick today. This is not financial advice. I know nothing about the stock market. Certainly, you've lost enough money there. But it did get an upgrade pick by some analysts today due to the impending sale.
Yeah, and that impending sale was Vince McMahon's offensive lineman against the backlash. Because if he just comes back and it's like Vince is coming back, this stock price, who knows what would happen. But if he comes back under the guise of a sale, then the fact that it moves that much is going to shield him from the negative optics of him coming back, given his allegations.
Kelvin R. Alexander, $2, saying Issa is right. Vince is exhausting.
Yeah, I see him taking it private. I see him selling it to whomever and then taking it private so that this company could be even more toxic and corrupt. And imagine the ground that covers.
Yeah, he can go slap women in public and still keep his title. Like they.
Oh yeah, he's been able to do that. Yeah, that's a privilege that he got that much money.
That's still debuting tomorrow night. It's amazing to me. Like nothing. Like no. Like just whatever. And then I saw some of the video that Harvard Chris was sharing about this due to concerns about concussions. And this looks insane. And not in a good way. Not like, oh my God, you have to see this. This looks like something out of Idiocracy that in the future we just watch people smack each other in the face to see like who can keep standing. I mean, this doesn't seem like a sport. This seems like an ill-advised dare.
To be fair, and I agree in terms of it looking barbaric, all of these things were what they said about MMA fairly recent ago. I can remember as recently as 2014, people saying that this was barbaric. And, to this day, people feel this way about UFC and MMA. And the fact that it's Dana White who comes from that world, and the fact that Allegations Aside is a great promoter in terms of somebody who's able to get this over into a mainstream audience, sounds like they really believe in it. I could see it going either way. I'm definitely going to tune in for the first one. It is hard to see this type of sport, but I'm going to tune in and see how it does ratings-wise, because I could see it going either way, whether it's going to be a colossal failure or a huge success in terms of this niche sport.
But UFC was on the map because it was the idea that, hey, we all love the movie Bloodsport. What is the best fighting style? Who is the ultimate fighter? And then we found out that it's really like there's one style and everybody practices that because there is one style that is the best. But when it started, it was like, what's better? Boxing, Taekwondo, Krav Maga, Jiu-Jitsu. Like UFC started, I think, with a really good idea. It devolved, but even then, like, what is your defense, Alfred? If you're in a competition where you're going to slap somebody across the face as hard as possible, knock them out, and they're going to smack you across the face as hard as possible, what's your defensive move there?
It's crazy. The defense for these slap fights and what they're judged on is how little they sell it. So they have to just know how to just keep that game face on, which, I mean, the best defense is just don't sell it, brother.
Learn how to take a concussion while standing up.
Undertaker needs to be in this league. Then they'll move numbers because he's not selling anything.
I mean, this is. I think this is. And this is a wrestling fan. I think this is dumb. And given the situation with Dana White, I am shocked that this is still going on as planned.
I'm not shocked. Dana White, Vince McMahon, certain people, the rules change for them. And I'm not even necessarily saying everybody needs to be canceled. I just wish that everybody got the sympathy that Dana White and Vince McMahon tend to get in terms of people deciding that, let's just show some human empathy for this person. I wish everybody benefited from those rules instead of just the rich white people.
Yes. Charlie Layton, $2. Vince is killing his creation. I mean, yeah, but that's the thing. Vince doesn't think Vince is a destructive force in WWE. Vince thinks that only he knows in his mind and his heart what is right, and everybody's trying to, sabotage him.
It'll be interesting because I know that narrative is very strong out there in terms of Vince McMahon is coming back to kill WWE, to kind of stick it to everybody who ousted him, and he's going to take it right into the ground. That very well may happen creatively, but whatever scenario comes about Vince McMahon's return, WWE or whoever owns WWE is going to come into more money than it's ever seen. So in terms of a financial decision, this could be a windfall for WWE. But creatively, yes, it'll probably go back to some pretty poor booking. But I will say, Vince McMahon's thing is the storylines that he does pay attention to were very good. Roman Reigns was very good under Vince McMahon. So people scared about the Bloodline storyline, I don't think have anything to worry about.
Although Sammy Uso was not the.
Sammy might have things to worry about for obvious reasons, depending on who buys WWE.
No, let me just say, if Vince was coming back to just destroy WWE out of spite, that might actually be very entertaining in a very entertaining wrestling program. If Vince was just like, this will show y'all,
he'd be a great heel.
Yeah, like that'd be a great storyline. You know, and he even played into it, like you said. If he came back and he's like, Teflon can't keep me down, I own everything, like that's too real though. I don't think they could do that.
I think they could, and I think people would cheer him for it. Like, you read what you will on Twitter, read what you will on his subreddit. Whatever 24-hour outrage happens, Vince McMahon shows up in front of a live crowd. They're bowing down, they're cheering for him, and they're not keeping that same energy.
I don't know that I want to live in a different reality, but I'd like to visit there from time to time just to see if it's better or worse overall. You know? Yeah. Steve Marcuccielli, $1.99. Which fits better, Disney or NBC to buy WWE?
NBC. They already have the PLEs on Peacock. It would just be a smooth transition. It would just be a matter of getting SmackDown from Fox.
100% NBC. In addition, USA Network needs WWE. So if they're not on NBC or an NBC-owned property, USA Network might die. For a lot of reasons, NBCU and NBC family could use WWE. And Disney would be a luxury. Disney already owns everything. They already have that great deal with UFC and ESPN. And I don't think they would want to spend that much money to get WWE. It'd be one of their biggest purchases, I think, of all time in terms of what they'd have to pay to get WWE as a single property.
Yeah, again, remember Marvel and Star Wars, the Lucas library, those were $4 billion each.
I mean, if anybody knows, I'm not saying WWE isn't worth that much money, but I don't think Disney would see WWE on that same level, given what they've paid for what you would argue are way higher mainstream commodities in WWE.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. Right. I think they underpaid for Marvel and Star Wars.
Yeah.
I mean, then those have been huge return on investment for Disney. So I don't know. I think USA, and USA, people are like, oh, Disney and theme parks. Universal got theme parks too. And it actually probably would fit better there. I don't see the celebration of WWE happening at a Disney theme park, but at Universal, sure. Especially now, Universal's opening a park in Texas. They're doing that permanent haunt attraction in Las Vegas that they're installing. I mean, I think if Universal acquires them, we might actually get a physical Hall of Fame and a hotel on Universal property.
Hopefully, and a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where they just like strap you and it's like a giant Brock Lesnar just suplexing you over and over. Oh my God, I would love that.
Let's go.
Anything else in the news?
Nope, that is the news.
So what should we talk about with NXT tonight?
We could just run down the show, quick summary. I mean, we didn't miss too much. It seems like they're doing the slow walk toward Vengeance
It was a blur for me after the news came out, honestly.
Especially the second hour. I can honestly tell you, I really couldn't break down that second hour because the process of me finding out was like 30 minutes of me doing nothing, really. Being in shock before I was able to react at all.
In this day and age, I feel like if I'm on social media and I see the news that somebody has passed away, my knee-jerk reaction is just like,
it's a hoax.
It's a hoax. Is this confirmed? Is somebody, getting ahead of themselves on some very tragic news? I mean, this with Jay Briscoe, this is very sad. The story is still developing. We opened NXT tonight with Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams versus Apollo Crews and Axiom. Apollo and Axiom got the win.
This match I did remember. I watched it. This was before any of the news broke, and I thought it was a banger. I really enjoyed it. Thought it was great. However, just send Trick and Melo to the main roster already. I don't want to see them staying in NXT if you're just going to have him losing matches.
Yeah.
He's losing his momentum. Great match. He's putting on bangers, but he don't need to lose his momentum. And I'm not sure where he stands after he dropped that North American Championship. And he's one of the best things in NXT. So if you don't have anything of substance for him, then send him up. I can see him showing up at the Rumble, maybe testing the reaction, you know. But I like Carmelo. I like what he can do, and I don't want to see him just go on losing streaks and becoming relevant on NXT.
Yeah, I think he either chases a world title or he goes to the main roster. And it might be tricky if they're going to remain heels, because it looks like Grayson Waller is going to win that strap, I think, at Vengeance Day. And if he does, then you've got that weird heel dynamic, or Trick and Carmelo can turn face. And I think they'd be great faces. But if there's no plan for Trick and Carmelo to chase, whether it's Grayson Waller or Braun Breaker for the NXT world title, they have no business there. They feel like fifth-year seniors, and I think they'd be very entertaining and really good on the main roster.
Kelvin Nair Alexander, $5, saying my takeaway from NXT tonight is to give Saul Ruca all the belts. And we'll talk
Saul
about
Ruca is going to be something, man.
Absolutely. Alicia pointing out, surprised that Carmelo took that pin.
Me too. Maybe they're winding him up. Maybe they're going to start using him to give the rub to other people before he leaves for the main roster. But I could see him in the Royal Rumble.
I mean, the transitions out of NXT have gotten worse the more time has gone on, I feel like.
Yeah.
So Tony D'Angelo was with Stacks on a bridge.
Oh my God.
He wasn't there to whack him.
I thought he was gonna. There was one moment there that I thought I'm watching and I'm like, Tony, don't do this. Like, he's like Stacks turns his back, and I really saw it coming. Very proud of the growth. That is what you call growth of Tony D'Angelo, to not whack him and send him over the bridge at that moment.
Maturity.
But instead, he was saying the bridge is a metaphor to a new beginning, and he's going to make Stacks the underboss of the D'Angelo family, which consists of Tony D'Angelo and Stacks.
The 2 dimes on his hand. Nice touch.
Yes. Stacks is the assistant to the regional manager. Yeah, I mean, it's just what are they doing with Tony, man? What are they doing with Tony?
I don't know, but I do enjoy the Tony D'Angelo outside of NXT promo, so I'm glad that we did get one of those.
Yeah, he's one of the best in the business when it comes to vignettes outside of NXT.
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Well, we got Tiffany Stratton backstage.
That's when the news broke. I can tell you that right now. I remember looking at her. I remember seeing Indy, and that's exactly when my phone started going crazy in my chat. I did thought Tiffany Stratton looked beautiful.
Yeah. We heard from Toxic Attraction, who are the number one contenders for the NXT Women's title. And
but they coexist?
Jesus. And they got interfered tonight by Lyra Valkyra. And Roxanne Perez challenging them to a main event.
Yeah. I'm
Roxanne
still not
Perez
happy about... Go ahead.
Very small. It's just my takeaway. She's very, because she even was dwarfed by Lyra, it looked like. I didn't know she was that small.
Yeah. I don't know what I was going to say.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
One of those nights. But this was a fun promo segment. I think the build for this, I mean, I think Roxanne's going to still be women's champion after Vengeance Day. Just a hunch. But then we had Alba Fire versus Saul Ruca. With Saul getting
Ruca's amazing.
That finisher, okay. The finisher, I mean, it's the same as an RKO. It makes no sense whatsoever, but it looks incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely one you need to suspend your disbelief, but so is a Canadian Destroyer, and that is one of the greatest finishers of all time, that you would flip and the other guy would flip too. And so this is on that level, and it's just like the Canadian Destroyer was the next evolution of the Power Bomb. This is the next evolution of the RKO or the Diamond Cutter or what have you. I think this is one of the best finishers in the game, and I love how the announcers react to it. I think that really helps when they just kind of react like they've seen one of the coolest things they've ever seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, the finisher is awesome. She's got the look. She's so athletic. She's going to be something special, and I'm excited to be watching her on NXT.
Super athlete, and one more on the board for the NIL program. So just keep track of all these super athletes who don't know the business, brother, as if that ever mattered. Goldberg, Ultimate Warrior, as if that ever mattered, that you have to grow up as a wrestling fan. It doesn't. Brock Lesnar. It doesn't matter at all. Sting. So keep an eye on all these super
Bianca,
athletes.
Belair.
Yeah,
Look
Bianca
at
Belair.
Belair. Like
Yeah.
how much she's grown, how incredible she is, and how she's picked up this business like this. The it factor can be taught. Wrestling in the ring, that can be taught, and you have to look for that. I'm done criticizing those choices, like what their background is at this point. You just gotta respect it.
Yeah, these NIL athletes, a lot of them are going to be special. They're not all going to hit, but the ones that do are going to be really special, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy, man. I mean, you think about the main roster and the way the hierarchy is established there, especially in the women's divisions. And I swear, I mean, there's like 5 women in the NXT roster that I think could be champion right now.
At least.
And the problem is that there's just no upward, like, it's tough with these long reigns.
Right.
Know? And it's tough also because what do you do? Like, going to the main roster 10% of the time maybe is going to lead you to greener pastures. Yeah. Kelvin R. Alexander, $5. I feel you, Glenn. The Briscoe news is a gut punch that's hard to recover from. It's just, man, it really makes you think, about how it can all just be over. Yeah. Our thoughts with this family tonight. It's very nice to see the outpouring of kind words toward him, but still, I wish there was a way, or I wish it was more normalized to like say really nice things about how much you appreciate people while they are with us.
Definitely. And I mean, even in mentioning, because things have come up about his life and his career and legacy, and people always talk about whatever tweets were sent. And I think we see now, and unfortunately, it was until he died, we see now how silly it is to reduce somebody's whole life to a friggin' tweet or something they said about whatever political stance, when this guy had a whole long life that now people are deciding to go back and look at him in context. We shouldn't wait for somebody to die before we say, okay, let's look outside of Twitter to see how this guy really was. That should be normal.
Yeah, I 1000% agree. It's not the right time to even be bringing that up, but if you open your social media and you see, and like you said, wish it would have been shown to him while he was still here. But if you open social media and see the reactions from all of the wrestling world right now, from all backgrounds, from all walks of life, and the way that they're speaking about Jay Briscoe, you have a couple of tweets that were sent a long time ago in here. Everybody does deserve a second chance and to prove whether they have changed or not. I think people show their true colors, and I do think based on the reactions that we're seeing that there was improvement made. This is not the time to be bringing that stuff up.
Ron Taylor, $2, saying Saul Ruca needs to be in the Rumble.
That would be nice.
She could be in that Kofi Kingston slot. I mean, Naomi, from what we know, isn't with WWE back yet. So if she's not going to be in the Rumble, and I know Kofi's going to do the men's Royal Rumble spot, but Saul
weren't
Ruca,
they giving them to Casey Cataro? She's the new name now. She was doing a couple of crazy Rumble spots as well.
Yeah, she had one of those in NXT. Caden, no, not Caden Carter, Katana Chance. She climbed the pole, and she's definitely capable of that too. So there's another thing about these NIL athletes. When we might get to a Royal Rumble eventually, like 15 years from now, where those spots are just common. Like everybody, like there's only 2 people who don't do the Royal Rumble highlight spot. We're gonna get to that where it's just the Royal Rumble's like Cirque du Soleil.
It's gonna get to one where you pop for something silly, like when somebody lands on a pancake, because we already seen so much athleticism that we just pop for something out of the ordinary because all these people are doing this crazy saves. Yeah. I still remember even I think was it last year, the year when Bianca won, and her and Rhea are just holding on, like they're both of them on the outside, their feet not touching the floor. Like it's gonna get to the point that we're gonna have so many athletes up there that everybody's going to be able to avoid an elimination.
Yeah, they're going to
Rumbles are going to go on for 2 hours, 3 hours because nobody gets eliminated.
That's going to be the thing. It's going to be the whole pay-per-view is the Royal Rumble because they just can't get eliminated.
That's how this one is going. They haven't advertised a lot of matches yet.
Yeah.
If they really did like spaced out the countdowns correctly and really, I would actually be absolutely here for it. If they actually, you know what? And even if they said that, like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's got to be a good way to do it, but I would love it if they turned it into a spot fest. I think we could see Naomi come back at the Rumble.
I'd love it. And Sasha.
Maybe not Sasha.
Never say never in the wrestling business. Amen. If she's not going to AEW and she wants money, it's one place.
Steve Marcuccioli, $1.99. Is it time for a women's intercontinental title in WWE?
No, I mean, I would argue that whether Raw and SmackDown having two singles titles good enough. I think there needs to be less titles all around. And I think two titles for the women with a tag team title is perfect amount of titles. I just think all the additional titles for the men, there should be two singles titles and a tag team title for the men too.
I would personally get rid of the women's tag team titles if you're gonna add a
Wow.
mid-card title, because you have a bunch of women just thrown together to keep these titles alive.
I agree. In WWE, where they never seem to really value women's tag team wrestling, the women's tag team titles will always be portrayed as a joke.
I think if we're getting Ronda and Shayna as tag team champs and going on a lengthy run, I think that.
Who are they going to go against, Glenn?
Well, first they're going to go against Damage Control.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know. I think you could really do something with that.
And then they're going to feud with Damage Control for a year.
Knowing WWE, that's what I thought we would be by now. I thought this Ronda and Shayna pairing that happened around the time of Clash at the Castle, I thought that they were just going to be two world beaters, but they haven't really done that.
Actually, that I could see Vince being against that, and Vince saying, if you've got Ronda Rousey in the company, why is she not champion? You know.
Yeah, I could see him wanting to put, but same applies for Charlotte too. I think, Charlotte is another favorite of that era.
Yeah. Be interesting to see what happens. Grayson Waller sat down with Vic Joseph.
Grayson just needs to win the title already.
Yeah.
And I hate what they did with that match last week. I still think it didn't hurt him. It didn't help anybody. Felt unnecessary, and I'm looking forward to a steel cage match. I want him to win. I'm rooting for him.
Yeah, and it doesn't really work because it's not like that's a finish where it cost him the title and he was on his way to winning it. He actually made him look like an idiot where he was getting counted out and then he wasn't able to get back in the ring, so he got counted out anyway. It's not like he had Braun Breaker pin and the referee counted slow or there was a distraction or anything like that. He did not have this match won. So it's weird that they're going with the whole Chael Sonnen gimmick. Having said that, man, did Chael Sonnen get to me. I felt like that Braun Breaker shot at Chael Sonnen was more of a shot at him than at Grayson Waller when he said he talked a big game and never won a big fight in his entire life, which unfortunately, Chael's one of my favorites, but that is true about Chael Sonnen.
Yeah.
So after this segment, Alba Fire was backstage, had a confrontation with Katana Chance and Kaden Carter. Alba wants to be an NXT Women's Tag Team Champion, says she doesn't even need a partner, stormed off. We'll see what happens there.
I think it's going to be Isla Dawn.
Yeah, probably. Right?
And
can they coexist?
Tag team. Yeah,
can they coexist? Isla Dawn. Is it going to be Isla Fire? Or is it going to be...
Isla Fire has a good ring to it.
Yeah.
Alba Dawn. No, that sounds like an old folks home.
Sounds like Abaddon.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. What's AEW doing with Abaddon?
Nothing. Free Abaddon
forever.
Free Abaddon. She should go to ROH. I think she'd be great in ROH, or she's just freer. I heard WWE is very interested until they found out she was under contract.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, she's great. So Gallus versus Brooks and Dunn with Fallon Henley tonight.
Gallus looked good.
This is at this point I was not paying much attention. Gallus won this match. I did try and pay attention to the drama going on in Chase U, where the NXT Anonymous had gotten Duke Hudson backstage talking to another Chase U student, like talking a little smack. Audio was a little tough to make out on this, but we then had Thea Hale having her first match on NXT versus Valentina Feroz. Thea getting the win. What did you think, Alfred, of Thea in the ring?
From what I saw or remember, I thought it was okay, but I think she has a great personality for wrestling, and I think she's another one of these women who, like you mentioned earlier, could win the world championship. But this was I probably saw the first minute of this match. That is all I remember, and for all I know, it could have lasted that long.
Yeah. So after that, then NXT acknowledged the passing of Jay and gave their condolences. We had Elektra Lopez backstage with Valentina because Elektra wanted to help Valentina in the match, which she lost to Thea Hale. we'll see what happens there. And then Elektra said she's gonna watch her match with the Valentina's match with Wendy Chu next week. So things are happening. We went from that to New Day doing an in-ring segment. And
they look great. I like the fits here.
Yes. They were out there with interrupted by Pretty Deadly and Gallus.
Yeah.
Yeah, this storyline just feels like a chase from Pretty Deadly to win. This storyline, the way they're doing it, I don't know if they're doing it on purpose or not. They're making you want to see Pretty Deadly overcome the odds to win these tag team titles.
Yeah.
Because they had that gauntlet won, even with the Rockers thing, they were on their way to winning it, and then Gallus comes out of nowhere. So now it's another roadblock, but you're kind of rooting for Pretty Deadly to win these titles.
Gallus.
Yeah, they made it. Sorry, Glenn, but I felt that last week they made it very unfair. Like the whole go find some partners to beat, so they do that, and then you come out. You're setting up people to root for Pretty Deadly here when you come out and say, no, you're gonna wrestle who we want you to wrestle, etc. And all of these things going wrong for them. It really does feel like you're setting it up for people to just start rooting for Pretty Deadly at this point.
And is it going to be a triple threat? The chat saying it's going to be a triple threat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That would be a banger.
Look, Gallus is of the school of, well, what's their character? They're tough and they're really good wrestlers. And I don't think that's as compelling to watch.
Yeah.
That's like the entire AEW roster except for the tough part.
Yeah, that is true. Absolutely. All that professional wrestling.
Braun Breaker sat down with Vic Joseph.
I didn't like this promo. I did hear I think the only part I pay attention to was Braun Breaker saying, well, I don't know. People are saying I could have lost, but you will never know. And I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah, this is a fine promo. And again, a good shot to Chael Sonnen. And it just feels like Grayson Waller is going to win. I wonder if he brings that. I wonder if he wears 2 NXT titles if he wins.
Oh, well, there you go. Calvin R. Alexander, $5 saying, like the dynamic of the evil Elektra trying to corrupt the innocent and wholesome Valentina.
Me too.
Well, Big Body Javi was going to play a song, but Tyler Bate cut his music off.
So is his gimmick
going to play Feliz Navidad? My God.
Is his gimmick that he's just stealing other people's gimmicks? Because it seems like every week he's got a new because this week it's Elias, he's stolen Jericho's gimmick.
I mean, it's a solid gimmick.
Yeah, it can go forever. He could show up as the Undertaker next week.
Yeah. But this led to Tyler Bate getting a win over Big Body Javi.
Yeah, he was announced. He was announced. It felt good to see him be back. I like Tyler Bate a lot. Very talented.
I like Tyler Bate. I hate his theme music. They had all that time away and they couldn't remix his theme music instead of this generic adult softcore porn music.
It's better than Samoa Joe's music. It always sounded like elephant porn. His music in WWE. Listen to it. It sounds like elephant porn.
Elephant porn.
I thought it sounded like a toilet flushing.
No, elephants. 1,000%. Telling you.
You know what I'm thinking about right now? There is that loud, like elephant trumpet.
I know.
In the middle of the bridge.
You'll never be able to unhear it now.
Nope.
Toxic Attraction took on Roxanne Perez and Lyra Valkyria in the main event tonight, with Roxanne and Lyra getting the win. Man, they're gonna keep building this up with Roxanne. But good on her and Lyra for getting that win tonight.
Yeah, she went to Booker T's wrestling school. Do you know that?
What?
Yeah,
did she?
Roxanne. Yeah.
I'm Googling that. I don't believe it.
I know they don't mention it. I have to Google it. It took me
What's
a
his
couple of
school
pages
called?
of scrolling. Reality of Wrestling.
No way.
Yeah.
Let me see this for myself.
I'm dead ass.
Roxanne Perez, Reality. Oh my God.
I know.
Why doesn't anybody talk about this? This is crazy.
I know.
Nobody talks about this. I didn't know Roxanne Perez went to Reality. I didn't even know Booker T had a wrestling school. That's crazy. Nobody talks about this.
Crazy.
Wow, I learn something new every day.
It's kind of a short main event, but
Yeah, they were
Literally
rushing
because
through this.
Roxanne was in it.
Yeah. I want to see her and Wendy Chu as a tag team. They would be an adorable tag team.
Yeah.
Fun size.
Yes, Roxy and Roxanne are the same person.
Yes. I was being sarcastic about Roxanne and Roxy and all that stuff. I do understand that Booker T has a reality of wrestling school. And I do understand that Roxanne is one of his students. It has been made patently obvious.
I think props to the NXT people just for keeping the show going. Like I know Roxanne was somebody that was in Ring of Honor. I know hearing this news, it's like, how do you go out there and do what you do? So major respect to them, because crazy breaking news. It's the second week in a row that this happens to NXT. Fortunately, what was speculated last week turned out to be just a crazy rumor. Not so much this week, but it's gotta be hard to compete out there when you know that one of your friends, co-workers, whatever, somebody in the world of professional wrestling had a tragedy.
Yeah. I mean, the Mandy thing is another thing. It just seems like these, Tuesday night, these rosters are just kind of flung into this emotional turmoil. And it's very weird because we just saw the Damar Hamlin incident where they canceled the game altogether because it's traumatic to see a guy go into a cardiac arrest on the field where you don't even want to play the game anymore. And, a situation like this, who knows if that could have been under consideration in terms of somebody very close. If it was part of the NXT locker room and some tragedy struck there, I would hope that they would cancel the show.
Yeah, I think we all thought the same when Owen Hart tragically passed away.
Yeah. But in their defense, they were kind of in a state of shock and they probably weren't in the best state of mind to make good decisions. But in hindsight, they absolutely should have canceled that show.
Yeah. Kelvin R. Alexander, $2 saying Roxanne is pretty small, but immensely talented.
Oh yeah. Great baby face. And those don't grow on trees.
Yeah.
Hey Alfred, how about those Green Bay Packers?
I don't feel like talking about the Green Bay Packers. We're going to have a shareholder meetings to discuss, but the Green Bay Packers will be back and better than ever in 2024.
I'm pretty sure they were going to win the Super Bowl.
They'll win. Every year, the Green Bay Packers win the Super Bowl somehow because this trophy is named after Vincent Lombardi, coach of the Green Bay Packers. So that's just being borrowed for the time being. And when we're ready to take it back, we'll take it back.
Sucks to suck.
Packers over Bills next year. The Packers were robbed. That Lions medical attendant should have never been on the field.
Mystic Nasty, you just give your football predictions are horrible. I just want you to know that.
Packers over Bills in 2024.
So
God's team will win the Lombardi Trophy in 2024. You heard it here first.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in tonight. It's a tough night with, again, Jay Briscoe has passed away at the age of 38. Stay tuned to Wrestling Inc. for more details on this story as they emerge. Our thoughts are with his family, friends, loved ones. We thank you all for tuning in. Tomorrow night, AEW.
It should be an emotional episode.
Absolutely. So everybody, take care. Please call a family member. Don't text them tonight. Call them. Let them know you care about them. As we are reminded of far too often, life is fleeting and quite short. And I think it's important to let people know how you feel. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Please take care of yourselves. We'll catch you back here next time on the Wrestling Inc. podcast.